carjacking, any carjacking, and especially one of this nature, is an indication that we have taken a very dark turn in our community, and in our city. And so we really need to put our heads together, and it's time for radical action. And frankly, it's time that all of us stand together. That to a point that if we're going to go, and I take this upon myself, and that's all I'm going to say about this, that if we're going to stand and be those who protest when George Floyd was murdered and executed and horizontally lynched in the street, we also should be demanding in the street and having a very demonstrative outcry and reaction to what happened today. This is unconscionable, and just really just is hard, like many of you, I'm sure, to digest. So I want to pray for our city, and that we would figure this out some way with radical action. Radical. I don't know what it is, but I'm not feeling very clergy-like right now in terms of what happened, and my response would be to whoever did this. Oh God, we come before you right now, and God, we ask God you would reveal to us the deep roots of what has happened, God, in terms of where the shift began, so that we would track it and begin to clean up where we went wrong, God. Whether it was decades ago, whether it was years ago, 50 years ago, whatever it was, God, we need to alter course again. So reveal to those that have somehow manipulated a system that has made this happen, or whatever it is, God, that has led to desensitization to such horrific happenings such as these, to commit them, God. If it is trauma, if it is the impact of drugs, the impact of media, whatever it is, God, we need to know, and we need to know now. So God, I ask that you would give those who are compassionate, intelligent, concerned, that you would give us a will to stand up boisterously and demonstratively to say to all those that would commit such heinous crimes that this must end, and we demand it to end now. So God, we ask now that you would be with us and give us insight as we talk about this issue on tonight, as we discuss reparations, God, that our community would be repaired. That's what we ask, quite simply, that we will find a way to repair what has been so desperately and completely broken. I ask this in the name of my Savior, Jesus Christ, and Almighty God, our Creator. Amen. All right, everybody. As we continue, just real briefly, a word about Justice and Beyond. Most of you on this call know Justice and Beyond has been organizing for 9 years, and we continue to do so as we continue to fight for justice in the areas of housing, education, criminal justice, and the environment, to ensure that there is equity and justice in all of these areas, as well as making sure that we always amplify and lift up the voices of brown and Black people. Admittedly, we want this to be expanded, and we want our work to be really focused on what our mission is, and we need your help to do it. We want those who have strong voices in this community to stand alongside us, to know that your voice is important, and we need you to be part of the planning of Justice and Beyond. We look for a better day when we will be together again in one room, and enjoying and appreciating each other's presence as we have before the pandemic. So I don't need to say anything about Dr. Colon. All of us, or most of us, if not all of us, are quite aware of who he is. I'll let him tell a bit more about what he's working on and what he's doing now. We are very happy to have a presentation, brief presentation by Episcopal representatives tonight. And we're just going to discuss reparations. We had a reparation town hall meeting. Was that last Saturday already? Time flies. Last Saturday, where we had many participants come out and really talk and engage about the issue of reparations and what it would look like for the city of New Orleans. Now we're at a point where we have to consider next steps. We don't want to leave this on the table. We don't want this to be a one and done. We don't want this to be a bunch of talk. We need change now. And so this is tonight to discuss where we go from here. And so that's what we're going to be all about. I'm hoping that I will hear Dr. Clone's voice now. I'm praying. Dr. Clone? Dr. Clone. Sometimes God says yes, sometimes God says no.
You're unmuted, Dr. Clone.
Yeah, that's been a consistent call that he's muted, but that doesn't seem to get it. Not sure what's going on. So we're going to move to, first of all, our brief presentation from the Episcopal Church representative, right, Dr. Franklin?
Yes, we have Reverend Dan Krutz, who is
Dr. Franklin.
Yes.
I don't know if this is my effort to stall or whatnot, but I do know, I think we have less than 20 on the call, right? And I forgot to say this, but we have 25?
We have 25.
Okay, you go ahead then, Dr. Franklin. I was going to say we could do introductions, but we got too many. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry to cut you off.
All right. Yes. Reverend Liz Emler Beasley attended the Reparations Town Hall meeting last Saturday, and she was served as a representative of Bishop Morris Thompson of the Diocese of Louisiana. And she read his statement on reparations, his very important statement on reparations. She read at the town hall meeting, and it was very, very important. Reverend Emler Beasley is the chair of the Commission on Racial Reconciliation within the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana. And she could not be here. She attended the town hall meeting. She was there for the town, but she could not be here this evening. And so she, in her stead, she has asked Reverend Dan Krutz, who is a member of the commission, to talk with us about its origins, where it came from, how long it's been in operation, some of its activities, and how it could relate to what Justices and Beyond is doing in terms of reparations. So we'd like to hear, I hope we can hear from Reverend Krutz.
Hello, can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, Reverend Krutz, we can hear you just fine. And just to be clear, are you going to reread the statement too?
I was going to read the last paragraph. I could, it's not that long. I could read the whole thing maybe, because there may be some people who have not, and I think it is an important statement. And I could, if with permission, just read that statement in just a moment.
Right. Yes, I would appreciate after you get done doing your introductory remarks that you would reread the statement. And I would ask that we would enter into a brief discussion after you give your full presentation, a brief discussion about the statement. And I would ask that all of you on this call listen to it. Take opportunity to take notes on specific things that you heard that will create some conversation and dialogue around the statement. Reverend Krutz, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Reverend Manning. And I just, there's a little vanity in me. My last name is pronounced Krutz. It rhymes with roots, okay? Dan Krutz, and I've been on the commission for, we call it now racial healing, but reconciliation is a significant portion of that. And Arissa Ahrens and Richard Saxer, who I believe may be on the call this afternoon or this evening, have been a part of the commission in one of its earlier iterations. And I would think that the commission is at least 25 years old, perhaps older than that. I could be wrong. And I think that a great significant initiatives out of Trinity Church in New Orleans and other parishes, Episcopal Church parishes, I think helped to move the work forward for the Diocese of Louisiana, which composes both Baton Rouge and New Orleans and some outlying areas, including the North Shore, began to move toward being more systematic in our approach to racism. The first iteration, I think the name of the commission was Commission on Anti-Racism. It was an anti-racism commission, and it moved toward reconciliation and healing. And there is an Episcopal program in the Diocese of Atlanta, the metropolitan area, and there's a Center for Racial Healing. It's called the Absalom Jones Center for Racial Healing. He was the first Black Episcopal priest, and so great work is going on there. And Dr. Catherine Meeks is the executive and CEO there and has helped to further our work in Louisiana. The commission, as it's formed now, is doing a good deal of training workshops with clergy and lay leaders of our congregations. We're still to some degree focused on trying to take care of the homework in our own community and to help people to see the enemies, of white supremacy and white privilege, and how that has, affected all of our history. And our work has been educational as well as advocacy. I would say has been a part of our work as well. I think there's also a recognition of our own complicity and in supporting slavery in its history. And of course, especially in the New Orleans area, and our first Episcopal bishop, that comes out in the letter. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read this letter. It was actually published in December of 2021, and it's by Morris K. Thompson, our bishop who lives in New Orleans. As Christians, our baptismal covenant forms the very foundation of our faith as one of the two sacraments of the church instituted by Christ himself. At baptism, each of us vows to strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being. The church responds by affirming and supporting each of us in this sacred endeavor. Yet collectively, we as the church have fallen short in our fulfillment of this basic tenet. Nationwide, churches are beginning to join universities, seminaries, and numerous other institutions in recognizing the need to confront the ways in which our historic involvement in the institution of chattel slavery has created deep inequities in our society. Fueled by labor from enslaved persons, Louisiana's antebellum economy boomed, transforming the area into one of the wealthiest places on earth. The Episcopal Church in the South, dubbed the Church of the Planter Class by historian Charles Reagan Wilson, shares in complicity. A number of its bishops were slaveholders and actively supported causes dedicated to the promotion and preservation of this way of life. Bishop Leonidas Polk, first bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana, is estimated to enslave between 200 and 300 people on his sugar plantation. The liberating message of the gospel was twisted to uphold a society profiting from the labor of enslaved persons. Today, Idola, Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana, welcomes the opportunity to join our colleagues across the country in this important effort to acknowledge and correct past wrongs and work together to create a more just and equitable future for all. This is the urgent, critical work we are now called to do. The Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown Douglas, Dean of Episcopal Divinity School, reminds us, quote, God calls us all to a future where the first are last and the last are first, Matthew 20:16. Such a future does not reflect a reversal of privilege and, reversal of privilege and penalty. Rather, it is a time when there is no first or last because everyone is treated and respected as the equal child of God that they are. It is left for faith communities to repair the breach between the present injustices and God's just future. In 2016, Idola offered a public and historic confession of the sin of racism at the 48th annual meeting of the Union of Black Episcopalians. As a diocese, we repented of our complicity in the evil system of slavery and apologized for the injury done by it and its aftermath. At that time, We recommitted ourselves to mending our lives, continuing to oppose the sin of racism in our personal and public lives, and to building communities of liberation and justice. Our work towards this means in our context, our work towards this, towards reconciliation continues today as we enter the national conversation on reparations. By defining what this means in our context and confronting disparities, we can begin the process of ending radical racial injustice and living more fully into our baptismal covenant. Signed, Morris K. Thompson, Jr., Bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana. So that's a lot of material in there, but I think it says a lot in terms of what our focus plans to be, what it plans to be in the future. And I think that we certainly want to be partners and figure out how best we can serve the coalition that has been formed in Justice and Beyond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Cruz, for that. That was phenomenal and even more impact, just as impactful, or maybe so even more than the first time I heard it. Dr. Franklin, you want to jump in here? Anything you want to say?
Yes, this is part of the reconciliation that's been taking place in the Episcopal Church over the last few years. For example, the Union of Black Episcopalians, which is about 52, 53 years old now, has emphasized this issue and has made a connection with the National African American Reparations Commission. And so that the Union of Black Episcopalians, Dr. Ron Daniels, will be speaking at the Union of Black Episcopalians annual meeting that will be held in Baltimore in July. And at that meeting, the church leaders, Black church leaders and others there will be able to put forward proposals and ideas about what the Episcopal Church has done and can do to try to ameliorate the conditions that exist, the racial hostilities, et cetera, that exist in the areas where the church is important. And so I'm sure that Black Episcopalians from Louisiana will be participating in that event for the Union of Black Episcopalians. And then the prelate for the Episcopal Church will be there and at the same time, putting forward proposals for how the church can work with groups such as Justice and Beyond that are interested in bringing about systemic change to the conditions that exist, the racial hostilities that exist in the society at large.
Dr. Franklin, let me just jump in there and make a comment before I open it up to others to ask questions of Reverend Cruz and to point out on what they found significant. I want to take the liberty here to point out one word that I heard repeated more than once, at least. It was the word complicity. And I like and appreciate that particular use of language, because I find often, I think that people are organizations, institutions, our systems in general are repulsed by a direct accusation that they have done harm, but maybe a little bit more accepting, or the term complicity maybe a little more palatable, because it suggests that there was cooperation because of lack of action, and so I really appreciate that term being used several times. And do you want to say anything more about that particular use of language, Reverend Cruz?
Well, I mean, I would certainly underscore what you're saying. I do think that as I hear the word, I can't help but but think about the reality, the historical realities in which we were complicit. And perhaps, we need to name those realities more. He did, Bishop Thompson did name, the fact that our first bishop, but there were others, and of course, the planter class formed I suspect, the core of the Episcopal Church in its earliest days. And I think that needs to be confessed too. And we in a way did that in 2016. Bishop Michael Curry, was with us, an African-American leader and our presiding prelate in the Episcopal Church in the U.S. And so we're working on that, but anyway, I'll stop at that. But I think it's a helpful word that can, I think, and people can find a commonality in it.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to take too much liberty here. I want other people to have an opportunity to ask questions. And I want to ask, Brooke, are you available? I don't think Sylvia's on the call tonight. She usually handles that. I know she's traveling and maybe not been able to do so. But either Brooke or Elizabeth, can you point out whether somebody has a question for Reverend Cruz, or just anything that they want to point out that they really spoke to them in this statement?
We do have Belinda who had had a
Yeah, go ahead, Belinda.
extensive comment.
Yes, I'm gonna have to unmute myself. Can you hear me, Brooke?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I put, wow. When you started the meeting out, Pastor Manning, thank you for praying such a profound prayer and sharing with us. That was the first for me to hear about that. But we know that these atrocities have been going on for a while now. But one thing I do realize, I put my comment in the chat, is that, everybody on this call tonight is over 50. Anybody under 50 on this call? I don't think so. And just keeping it real, how much time do we have? How long can we wait? And I hear the resounding sound of Dr. Martin Luther King saying, we can't wait. We can keep on allowing, all of this study, all of this, back and forth, education, information, what are we really doing? And I'm just being real. People are dying, people are suffering. Our country is standing by, watching to see, I guess, what we're going to do about it, or if anything is going to be done about it, basically on the sidelines, watching these atrocities take place, and this tyranny and this suffering. So while we're doing studies, everybody's talking about, they got this script, and I just perceive that as a script. 2016 is 2022. How are we going to really address this? Give me some heartfelt concerns. Talk to me face to face. Talk to me with reality, with the real conversation that we need to be having. Thank you, Pastor Manning.
Thank you, Sister Belinda. Appreciate that. Your deep concern there is well articulated and shared by, I'm sure, many here. Let me go to anybody else who has comments about this particular statement, and how, I think this connects to what you said too, Sister Belinda. How does this inform our work? This was very progressive and groundbreaking and impactful on the part of the Episcopal Church. But how does it inform the broader and greater picture of the work of reparations in terms of what we do here in New Orleans to begin to bring repair to broken systems? And so any further comments that anybody has? Brooke, did you see any hands up?
Max Reichert. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. You'll need to unmute.
Thank you. Thank you. As Reverend Manning very well knows, in the Missouri Synod, it's very difficult in our church to have this
Qualify for Max, but people don't know what the Missouri Synod is. What is that?
well,
Lu-
that's the Lutheran, that's the major congregations of the Lutheran Church in the United States, and you know, to talk about complicity in my church would be almost impossible, you know, other than maybe a half a dozen people, which is about the group we have in my church that would engage in this conversation. And I guess, and really, just the truth is to respond to the earlier speaker, people in my church don't want to have this conversation. They simply don't want to have it. I mean, some of us have been working at this for a number of years, but that's basically the response. It's better not to have the conversation. And I'm gonna say that's not just the white people in my church. That's been true of the African Americans in my church as well, because it's too painful for the African Americans. And so I guess my question is, if there's a question here, you know, how do we get to the place that Trinity and the Episcopal Diocese has got for those of us who are in a different situation than perhaps the Episcopal churches? Thank you.
Good question, Max. Thank you. Reverend Kreutz, anything to offer up there?
I just want to respond to Sister Belinda. I mean, I you know, confess that, you know, I am not doing what all I could be doing right now. But I gotta say, Reverend Manning, your kind of introduction to the meeting was really, you know, where I think we need to be going. The sense of urgency that you spelled out, I think, and then you followed it up with what are the next steps, and I think that's what Belinda is talking about. What concrete steps are we going to take? And we can't wait. I think that's, you know, where we are. And to, you know, respond to Reverend Reichert, I mean, it is old, and I know Belinda will, you know, I was like, God, we've talked enough, but somehow or another there has to be, I think, a meeting of minds around the table, and we're going to disagree, but to try our best to go forward. As people who recognize the past is wrong, and we need to right the wrong. That's part of what reparations is about. Thank you.
And I'm wondering, you know, that was such an incredible acknowledgement statement, and that's one of the things for all who are on this call. One of the things that came out of that town hall is that there needs to be a statement of acknowledgement of the harm that has been done through racism and discriminatory practices over over a length of history, or a span of history, to do harm towards Black communities and people of color. And so what we're looking towards is how do we get, you know, and you know, Max, you know, brought up a good point that some don't even want to broach the subject, but at some point we've got to raise this to the city council. Our goal is that New Orleans City Council and the administration of the mayor's office would create and adopt a statement of acknowledgement of the harms that have been done. That's one of our goals. That's one of the primary goals. I don't know. I mean, how does this statement of the Episcopal Church inform this? And also, I just think the Episcopal Church should have and maybe they've already done this, but invite the leaders of every other church body. I don't know if the Lutherans would show up, but it's worth a chance to discuss this statement and to encourage others to do the same. But anybody else? What are your thoughts?
Well, I had my hand up. Yeah, right. Well, I've been dealing with the problems and issues facing young people as an educator and as a historian. And in my book, The Young Crusaders, I documented what young people did in the past to try to improve their own situation and improve the situation in the country at large. And they engaged in all kind of not direct action, protests, boycotts, marches, et cetera, to try to improve their situation and the situation in the society at large. However, when I was working on the book for a long time, for like really almost 20 years, you know, on and off, and did exhibits and things like that. But when the book came out, it seemed to me that a major problem facing us is the violence that our young children are caught up in. And so, if I am putting together a book on the Young Crusaders with the object of the teenagers and young people in the 21st century, those were from the 20th century, these in the 21st century also become young crusaders for reparations, for a better improved environment, for clean air, for clean water. If they will become young crusaders for those causes in the 21st century, they can't do it if they're being shot. That's the reality. If, you know, it's not, I want them to become, I would like them to become young crusaders for these racism, these other things, but they can't do it if they're being killed, either by the police or by each other. So that this becomes this was a real issue for me, you know, having worked on the Young Crusaders and wanting that to be the goal and objective in the 21st century. But what I think that we're doing with our reparations campaign is we're trying to raise money, raise funds to provide a community reparations fund that will take care of alternatives, that will provide alternatives for the young people who find that they have nothing else better to do than engage in carjacking or shooting each other. So so the reparations should be geared toward providing alternatives for our young people. And the first, and one of the easy ones for which we don't have any money, would be to try to get the guns away, to try to get them to, we used to have in New Orleans had gun buyback programs. Can we do that again? Because it's clearly there's the city is awash in these guns, and that can focus and could be the focus of trying to attract those individuals who are turning in the guns, alternative circumstances and conditions for them.
Yeah, I wonder, I would love to hear what people think about the gun buyback program, because what we need is action at this very moment, as Sister Belinda articulated, and what I think all of us are feeling the urgency of, and are struggling with right now. But you know what, I think we need to look at this as a step-by-step, phase-by-phase opportunity. What do we do right now? Is it the statement of acknowledgement? Jeff Connor, you had a question.
You need
Was
to
it Jeff?
unmute.
Okay.
Jeff, you need to unmute.
Okay.
Whoops. Sorry, I just muted you by mistake. There you go.
Okay. Just a small example. I think one thing that has to happen from the white end is that white folks need to dig in and offer reparations. And that's something that we as white people have to work to do. One example, it's a very small example, but a good example, from my wife's church in Algiers United Methodist Church. This coming Sunday, they will make an announcement that they're offering the equivalent of the $100 that the Ku Klux Klan gave to the church when it was first built, an amount equal to that now, about $1,200, to an institution that is working for justice and health in the African American community. And that came from the church folks themselves after hearing and knowing about this event in the Klan's donation. And it's one small way that white churches can make immediate small offers, but also advocate for the larger offers and needs that are structural.
Thank you, Jeff, for saying that. Because what you have given an example of is that every bit counts towards repair of the injustice. That, you know, sometimes I think when we hear the term reparations, we think of millions and billions of dollars being put out and directed towards the communities that have been harmed. But this is an example of targeting the harm, going back and doing the research of who committed the harm, and then repairing it by doing a specific action. And I agree. We all can, in our churches and institutions, go back and be diligent about seeing where the harm originated. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Manning, for that. That right there, what you just said is very profound. And one of the things that my grandmother taught me was that, you know, whenever there is a problem, first of all, you got to identify that problem in order to have a solution. So a statement of an acknowledgement, I think, is taking this thing by the neck and saying, look here, we have to acknowledge the fact that these atrocities have happened to us. And that can be a part of revealing so that God can come in and heal those things that have to be revealed. You know, I just left Jackson, Mississippi from an event that after the bill was passed, the John Lewis bill, some of you may be familiar with that, for Emmett Till. 67 years, this happened in 1965, the death of Emmett Till. And we met with the governor, you know, at the Capitol, and trying to get them to acknowledge that, you know, that was never, you know, dealt with about the lie that caused Emmett Till his death. And there was, you know, for Carolyn Bryant was the lady that lied and said that, you know, he whistled at her and so forth. Some of you may be very familiar with the story. If you're not, you need to go to Netflix and watch this series about Emmett Till's mother of Emmett Till. And what I'm saying is that they won't even acknowledge that the fact that this was a crime. So how do we get, you know, and I feel the passion coming from you, Pastor Manning. I feel the hurt, the pain of people dying because they want to hold on to the lie, you know, and a statement of acknowledgement. I'm in agreement with that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Sister Belinda. And I'm wondering, you know, because again, that has to be, it doesn't have to be, but it was recommended to us that that would be our first step. And some of you certainly on this call would say, there's no way. There's no way the city council is going to agree to make a statement of acknowledgement. There's no way the administration is. But I would like to hear thoughts on if you all agree on that should be our next course of action, to engage particular council members so that we can move that forward. At least it's a step. Or do we engage certain groups to catch on like the Episcopal Church has gone on? Or for this matter, you know, we don't have our main presenter here, so this is just going to be fruitful discussion to really speak to where we go from here. This is an action that Justice Simeon is willing to pick up and do what we can to further it. So this is not just a bunch of fluff. So what do y'all say? Any more comments? Brooke, see any?
I don't see any.
Tell me about the statement of acknowledgement. Yay or nay? How do we make it happen? Is that a pipe dream? Are we out of our minds that the city of New Orleans is ever going to do that? Is this the time? Are we standing at the crux of that moment when we see the importance and where such a statement could lead to in order to bring repair? Is this a hill worth climbing in order to get to that point to have a statement of acknowledgement?
Pastor Manning, have we approached Oliver Thomas about this?
We have not.
issue?
We have not, and to be honest, it was suggested that the only person that somebody has suggested is that we would, and he was going to be invited tonight. I don't know if he actually got the invitation. Was to approach Council Member Freddie King, but Oliver Thomas also may be one that we need to approach too.
I would like to say that we have I think a Raymond, he's saying in the chat that he thought that this had already been, I think maybe, he missed it, but he said that it had already been done. Do you see that, Pastor Manning, in the chat?
I do.
Raymond, you want to make your comment out loud since I can't read your chat?
Yeah, I thought they did this already a couple years back. Either they acknowledged that slavery existed or they acknowledged something about reparations. I was looking on, trying to see if Miss Google could give me an idea if that had ever happened. So I'm looking now, but I remember them talking about this years ago. When I say years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Really? So maybe like around the time of the 300th anniversary.
No, not Mitch's term. Well, maybe it was Mitch's term. I'm not really sure. I'm looking to see if I just may have misread something.
Anybody else? Because one of the things I'm thinking, Raymond, is that if it was written, it should be very very easy to find. In terms of it should not be something that's surreptitious, but it should be blatantly out there. And if it's not, then that's the problem too. If it was made and now is just covered up somehow by anything. Does anybody else remember?
Pastor Manning, I wasn't finished, but I wanted to say that when you came on, you were basically, compelling that, we're at a state of emergency. There's an urgency. And, one of the things that I do know that, especially the younger generation, all of this, just repetitive things that we have done in the past that really have brought us back, around circles, almost like chasing the rabbit, or expecting something that we never get. And we got to kill that attitude. There is a movie that's called The Ghosts of Rwanda. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that. It's called The Ghosts of Rwanda. And it talks about, actually, it says about how, within days, it was over almost 1 million people that was murdered in the street and some part of Africa. But what you have to pay attention to is that how did it get that way? And that's the question. How did it get that way? And that is the reason why I'm saying that, we can't be nice about a statement of acknowledgement we actually have to identify certain things in that statement and name certain people in that statement, and not just deal with the city of New Orleans, because even though, we're talking about the state of Louisiana right now, we need to know, how did it get that way? And yes, New Orleans is the largest city in the state, but what landed us in this situation right now that we're facing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Certainly, we
What
know
caused it?
exactly. There's a bigger picture. But certainly we begin at the or we may want to begin rather at the local level and move out from there, because the city of New Orleans doing such a statement should help to speak to other municipalities as well too, hopefully, just as the Episcopal Church making a statement should speak to other religious bodies, and inform them as to what their action should be. Any other statements? Brooke too.
Could we try Al?
Yeah, we could try them. Dr. Gallo?
Talk into your phone. Turn off your computer and just talk into your phone, because you have a picture on your phone too. Now I don't see your picture on your phone. Where is it?
All right, Brooke, continue to work that out if you could. I don't know how he.
I can't reach him because he doesn't answer his number.
All right.
Oh, can he just,
Well, I
can
wanted
he
to,
just call in? Can he just call in? Just
We're
dial
trying
in?
that.
We've tried. That's what I was
Yeah.
just asking him to
We tried
do.
all that. VP, Dr. Franklin, what were we gonna say?
Yeah, I was going to say that, in terms of next steps, I mean, the point made by Jeff Connor, Reverend Jeff Connor, about the congregation putting aside this $1,200 that they want to donate to a worthy cause. We don't have a repository for those donations. I think that the Episcopal Church, as a diocese and individual Episcopal churches and other churches and synagogues would be willing to donate to a community reparations fund that would be used to support a gun buyback program. That to try to get some gun. I mean, we had gun buyback programs in the past. And there's been research done on the effectiveness of gun buyback programs. And so, and they have been effective when they are associated with other activities, job opportunities, career planning, opportunities like a fair, make it a positive event for those who are turning in the guns. And then that has a revitalizing effect on the community. That has a positive effect. Now, Reverend Jeff Connor has said that his church has this $1,200 that they want to donate, and there's no fund to donate to that would be able. So this is what we would want the city council to do: to create a fund where people and churches and individuals and groups, et cetera, can donate money into a larger fund that would be used to support things that that the members of the Black community say will help our young people and young adults.
To be clear, Dr. Franklin, I want to be clear that from my understanding, we don't need the city council to create a fund. We can create a fund ourselves. They would help ratify it and give it their blessing, but we can do it ourselves. Is what I was under the understanding of. But what we need too is what we really need their blessing on is develop a reparations task force that will then set up the reparations fund. Correct?
Oh yeah. Oh, yes, the task force would be the one that would create the fund, and the task force would have the credibility to collect the funds, and people will know that that task force is being held accountable, that the task force is being held accountable for the donation that came from Jeff Connor's church. And so
Okay.
that's the legitimacy, that the legitimacy of the activity as far as trying to address the situation that we are facing.
I got a couple of questions of it and glad people are chiming in. Here's what I want y'all to think about. Justice and Beyond pillars have discussed possibly getting, and maybe this is going to the reparations fund too, but donations like maybe the Episcopal Church, or many different individual Episcopal churches want to join in to hire somebody that would work particularly on this issue for the next 1 to 3 years, so that the outcome would be to get a statement of acknowledgement, get it if that hasn't already been written, and maybe Raymond's coming up next with a comment, so maybe he found it, and to get the task force up and going, the fund up and going. But if we put in maybe $75,000, we can get maybe $150,000. We can get a person and pay them a decent salary to be able to go after that, because many of us are volunteering. That's one of my thoughts. But let me go to Raymond.
Raymond, you're up.
I did not find what I was looking for, but I want to say something and give us a little pause here. I hate having discussions about Black folks, and the first thing we come up with is reducing criminal activities in order to support Black children. We are not all criminals. Many of us don't even own a gun. So I think we should need to look a little deeper into reparations dollars. For instance, we need some of these folks, including myself, I might add, need cash money to supplement their income, because the jobs that they have now, some of them are new on their jobs. They've been fighting forever to be on the jobs that they're on, and they're not getting the raises or the promotions that their white counterparts have been offered. See, we can go back to slavery if we want, but let's go, to 1971, the year I was born. There was some stuff going on then. There was some stuff going on in the 80s. There's some stuff going on in the 90s. We are feeling the impact of Jim Crow era rules on today. Jeff Sessions, we're not even talking about 10, 20 years ago. Jeff Sessions reduced the authority of the EEOC office, and all of those cases that they were supposed to handle, Jeff Sessions decided that they didn't want to even pursue half of them. There's some stuff that happened just yesterday that we don't have to go way back. We can go forward and deal with some of the stuff that just regular people are doing every day, trying to survive. And we're more than criminals. All of our conversation can't be around us reducing crime. Someone said the other day, how did Trump help the Black community? The response was that the crime bill or the Second Step Act, everything is about that's good for Blacks is about reducing crime. I think that's a miss. I think that's missed energy somewhere. This is my personal problem. Don't think of us as a deficit, but think of our existence as an asset.
That's incredible. Thank you, Raymond, for that comment. Very, very timely and important. And I want you to know that at the reparations town hall, we not only talked about crime, but we also talked about housing, other aspects of the environment, and we also talked about education, because discriminatory actions within each of those focus areas has also led to the harm done to Black people. As you mentioned too, the fact that there is a great disparity between what a Black male, a Black female makes in relation to their white counterpart. And so how do we begin to, we got to not only think about equity, we've also got to think about reparations too, a repair of that system from the harm that has been done systematically over the course of many, many years. But certainly, like I said, we're focusing on we need to focus. I totally agree.
Yeah, we discussed, remember, public health and restorative justice. We had that housing. So gun violence prevention was just one of the areas that was discussed at the town hall meeting in terms of how the reparations funds would be used. We, as Reverend Manning said, it was housing, public health, restorative justice, and support for Black cultural institutions. And so we discussed reparations, how reparations would be helpful and effective in all of those areas at the town. That's what we discussed at the town hall meeting.
And so, yes, your point is well taken, Raymond. I think there's a comment by Ann Meyer.
Ann Meyer is next, yes.
I really support the idea of completely separating any gun buyback program from reparations. The two really, really should not be linked in any way, shape, or form, and especially in people's minds. Buyback programs are extremely complex and difficult to implement and have shown very limited success because it's difficult to involve juveniles. It's difficult to involve felons or ex-felons. It's difficult to involve people who are the most dangerous with guns. But we do have a possibility here with an organization in New Orleans that allows for confidentiality. If we're talking about gun buyback, we might want to see what Crime Stoppers would have to say about that. They actually have an existing structure for confidentiality, complete confidentiality. It is something that we could at least look at, though I will say, just from having done the data analysis on this for juveniles and adults across the United States and in other countries, it's not exactly the answer. The guns aren't the problem. It's the people who are pulling the triggers who need the help. But I certainly will be supportive of anything that might go in that direction. I also put some information and links in the chat about when reparations have been spoken of previously here in New Orleans. Thank you very much for your attention.
And I'm understanding that you Raymond said that he didn't see an acknowledgement statement. Did you see one, or anybody else for that matter?
Well, one of the things that I've seen evidence of is the very, very real evidence that there's a less of a likelihood of violence or death or murder, et cetera, if a gun is in the home. If a gun is in the home, there's a much evidence that the existence of a gun in the home it greatly increases the likelihood of violence in that home. That's one thing. The other thing that in terms of the gun buyback programs, yes, certain gun buyback programs initially did not necessarily reduce the amount of violence in the location where it took place, but there have been various other types. And so I'm familiar with the research on the gun buyback programs. And when they are part of a larger project to provide alternative opportunities, provide alternative options, et cetera, for those, for the young people, it becomes something that the young people are attracted to because they will get something out of it. They will not just get the $100 or $200 for a gun that shouldn't be in their home. They will also find out about job opportunities, vocational training, and those kinds of things. So I have done research on the gun buyback programs, and all of the evidence is that not having a gun in the home is one way to prevent violence, domestic violence in the home. And there's been all kind of evidence to that effect.
Thank you, Dr. Frank.
If I may, just in closing, and then I've got to leave. You are absolutely right, Mr. Franklin. I've sat on the Children's Death Review board for the state of Louisiana for a number of years. And children do shoot themselves and each other with guns when they are in the homes. I would be very interested in seeing any programs that it's available for a child under the age of 18 to participate in a gun buyback program. But you are 100% correct. When the gun buyback program offers mentoring, jobs, and education in that same time frame, there is a positive effect. And it may have to do with the gun buyback program, but it only happens when the other ones occur. You're absolutely right, Dr. Franklin. Thank you, everyone. I'm now going to work on climate justice. Bye, guys.
Bye, Ann.
Thank you very much for your participation.
We have Ben next.
Ben, please.
Ben, and then Jeff Connor, and then Belinda again.
Yeah, maybe I'm 74 right now, so my memory isn't as good, but it seems to me that somewhere early in the Obama's first term, there was a lot of excitement, our first African-American president, among a lot of leaders like Jesse Jackson, just to name one of many, and many folks here. It was a first time, an interesting time in our history. But sometime in his early in his first time, I thought there was a reparations bill that was put into the Congress by the Black Caucus of the U.S. Congress. And I remember it went into committee, and then of course I got involved with other things. I kind of lost track of it, but it just popped. Does anyone know what happened to that? It was early. If I got it correct, it was early in Obama's first term.
It's still going.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's HR 40, right?
Yeah.
Yes. HR 40 has been voted out of the Judiciary Committee and has at least 115 sponsors. And it's different from the original HR 40 in that the original HR 40 was to study whether or not to implement reparations for African Americans. The revised HR 40 that has been voted out of the Judiciary Committee and has over 100 sponsors, calls for not just the study, but also to come up with recommendations on how the reparations program can be implemented. And so the holdup in terms of HR, at least in the House, I don't really get through the Senate, I don't know, but in the House, the holdup was James Clyburn, the minority whip, and Nancy Pelosi, who both believe that they do not want to take up the bill because this is a midterm election year. So that's where the HR 40 stands now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Franklin. Thank you for that question. Ben, Jeff Connor.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Just to let you know, there were two suggestions that we made. My wife is former pastor of the church that I was talking about, and they told her about this situation. And she suggested two things, one of which the congregation already has deep involvement with, and that is the Common Ground Health Clinic, which was started after Katrina by African Americans. So that was one that she suggested, and also the People's Institute to provide training for others on undoing racism. So just wanted folks to know that those were the two things that were suggested. We don't know what they will choose, but my guess is probably the Common Ground because they have such a relationship. The church has a relationship with them.
Where is this church?
It's on Opelousas Street in Old Algiers.
Okay, and just and I don't know if you're aware that Dr. Al Colon is a trainer with the People's Institute, and I have been a part of 4 Undoing Racism conferences. I and love to be part of a 5th, and love to have another church to do that in conjunction with. If there's one so willing, such as yours, it helps to have Black and white folks in the room together, entering into that conversation and that dialogue.
Yes, that is something that we can kind of put in the ear of some of the folks there. We'd be glad to do that.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Jeff. And great steps. Taking any steps towards this work is better than just remaining complicit in the behavior and in the system. Let's see. I think Belinda was next. Sister Belinda.
Yes, Dr. Thank you, Pastor Manning. I'm just gonna be very candid and straightforward. It's really sad that it just popped up on my computer that 3 people were killed in New Orleans apartment complex. And we're on here talking about, gun buyback. And, if somebody want to kill somebody, they're gonna get a gun. Okay. Nevertheless, I think that, we're just, it's really so frustrating and disappointing when we have all of these brilliant people on here. People that's been around. This is not nothing new to us, but we're still on here talking about stuff that that have been done in the past, and we're in the state and condition that we're in. So my thing is that when you say that we need to to be aggressive and act on where we're at now today, then we're on here still talking about stuff that we done in the past that have not changed our state and condition that we're in. When do we realize that we're going around in circles? That's what I'm concerned about right now. Crime Stoppers is a joke. I would not go to another reverse racism meeting ever again, because what is, talking about stuff and is 2 different things. Everybody know what the problem is. Everybody has been talking about what the problem is for decades. Now I'm starting to boil, so I better shut up, because I get kicked out of these meetings because you're not going to get insane.
Belinda, Sister Belinda, you're not going to get kicked out. But as you talk about when we stop talking and do something radical, that's when we have to throw out a radical idea. And because here's what I think. I am consistently and believe, I'm reading a book called Endangered Minds, that I am consistently under the belief and hold fast to this, that we have done something that has distorted the minds of our young people by not putting constraints on these violent video games that are out there. I really believe that they have caused a warping through subliminal messaging, or not even subliminal, overt messaging and imitation of these video games in real life. And that's number one. I have been a fan of putting constraints and tightening whatever laws and policies on the sale of ammunition. But I can't, some people don't agree, but I think, you can't get guns off the street. How do we stop getting ammunition sold and brought in to the city? So, I 100% agree with you. We've tried the same thing over and over, and I'm so I'm like you. I'm so tired of seeing people on the TVs crying and getting mad and da da da. And no, we are going downhill in fire right now, and I am exhausted from it as well too. So
and our leadership have failed us, and that's why I really like the idea, Pastor Manning, that you want to unite the clergy, for us to come together in solidarity. I think that that's where some of our power lies in regards to putting pressure on our leadership that is letting us stay in this state and condition, from the White House on down. We have to, put ourselves in a strong, united front position to push back on people that's just standing by and that really can, like money is not a problem. We have money. Money is everywhere right now. The president just wrote a $800 billion check to Ukraine. We have money. But what is the problem? That we are still suffering from these atrocities and no one is helping us, and we're starting talking about programs, do this, do that. And none of that stuff have worked in the past. We're still in this position.
We need suggestions, but I gotta move on to see if anybody else has anything.
Yes, Raymond and Brooke both have comments.
Before we take Raymond and Brooke, I understand that Dr. Cologne was was in the waiting room for a minute. I don't know how that panned out.
He's here again, but somebody's working with him. Can you hear us, Al? Can you talk? Nothing.
All right. Well, Raymond.
I just was just thinking about what VP was saying earlier about the original programming piece, and I hear Sister Belinda's frustration, and we haven't done those things. As the money that we're getting has not been used for things that we said that we needed them to be used for. Thank you for that, Jar, because that's really what I was talking about. But I want to go back to what Reverend Manning was saying about the video game violence and this other stuff. They have TikTok videos where children are being encouraged to slap their teachers. So we're not just combating with things that happened years ago or things that's in the street. We're competing with technology that's ever changing, that's going into these children's minds on a daily basis, and adults. We have adults that believe what they see in reality TV is their reality. They believe that fussing and fighting and cussing each other and stunting for the gram is their own personal reality. It is not our reality. And the question that I have for everybody is, how do we supplant that foolishness with something that's real, that we can use on a daily basis? Because we've been fighting not just against the system, but we're also fighting against institutions like social media, who will have people to believe that what they see on social media is the real thing. They try to get on there to fight for the hip star or whatever. And then even saying all of that, this is not all of our people doing this thing. There are a lot of our people who are doing the right things, who are going the right way, and we're not doing anything for those either. So we gotta figure out where we can focus. Like Belinda said, we got money for all of it. We just got to do it, and most of it hasn't been done. When you talk to the mayor about doing something, she'll find some money, and then instead of her supporting the people who are already doing the work, she goes find 5 of her cousins who have never done this work before, and then all of a sudden they start doing the work. And you know where they got to start? They got to start with people who've been doing the work from. And guess what? All the money's been used to train them to fly them everywhere where they want to go and learn about the work that's already been done by people who've already been doing the work. So I don't know the answer to this question because I'm not in charge. But if I were in charge, I would get the money and put the money where the people say the money go. Last week, somebody was supposed to come give us an answer about whether the money for the $300 million or whatever money that the mayor had, and have we seen any of that? Has anyone talked to her about that?
Right, exactly. We need to be about demanding that funding in order to get it to the organizations that are really doing the work. That's what we're hearing, is that people like Tamara Jackson and other folk, Butu Village, NOLA, are not getting the funding, but are yet willing to do the work. They get the crumbs and the peanuts, while, like you said, the five cousins get the six-figure salaries and are not doing the work. Brooke.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to state the very obvious, and that is this question, the whole issue about violence on the streets is such a complex issue. It comes from so many different origins. It's all these things cascading into one zero spot, and it's poverty. It's not having parents at home because they can't afford to be at home. It's not, I would not say that it's video games, because I know plenty of middle-class white kids who are not shooting anybody, who have all spent years in front of video games. It is so complex. It is not a simple one-step answer. The structural racism that prevents the Black community from organizing together in a, which, is what needs to happen. It needs to be multifaceted from every point of view, which is almost impossible. I mean, we've got to do it. It's got to happen, but it is so much more than just this or buying back guns, or, not everybody who owns a gun kills. Not everybody, it is years and centuries of trauma upon trauma upon trauma. It is so much more than, I think everybody's trying to be very somewhat simplistic about this. I don't mean that in an insulting way. I just mean as though it's human nature to want to drill down and find the answer, and there is no the answer. It is so many things that all have to happen simultaneously. And the first thing that has to go is the structural racism that's not only applied by whites, but it's also applied by people like the mayor, or, it's people who are not fairly looking at the situation and saying what's best for all, so that's my piece. Agree or disagree, but
I agree 100%. Thank you, Brooke. I put it in the chat for making it so clear to us. That's the reason why Pastor Manning, Raymond just brought up what I thought this meeting would be about tonight, is how we're going to come into solidarity. What is that going to look like? How are we going to develop that so that we can get the power to go and access the resources and everything else we need to make the change?
Exactly.
Here's what we're going to do. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're just got number one. First of all, Brooke, I'll just push back, if I may, then we're going to wrap this up. Push back on the comparison between the white children who don't turn or imitate violent acts like the Black children do, and so you don't think it's video games. I real emphatically say again and again that I think that that the video games and the social media in general has had an impact on it. But when I talk about the video games, what Black children may want and desire, because they have seen themselves subjugated, is power. What the media sells is power, fame, and wealth. Power, power, power. If I can yank somebody out of their car, if I can hold them up and get their money, that's power. And what is being sold to them is power, and the need and the desire and the constant just the desiring of that power because of the inferiority, both internalized and externalized, that they're experiencing. White children desiring that same power.
And there are plenty of white kids who have had, you know, who have done horrible things with guns. I'm not saying that too. But I also think that, yes, the power is a big thing. And when you're disenfranchised entirely, of course you want power. Of course. It's only human dignity that makes you want that, right?
Right. So I'm saying that, so it's not the, you know, they're playing it just for sport and leisure, and they have the privilege of being able to do that. But if you're seeing this enacted on the video game, I can have that same power. If I hold up somebody on the street, you know, I got dominion over them. Then that's something that the young people or anybody may want, for that matter. But I'm just going to leave that there. Well, here's where I think we should go. I think number one, what we'll be talking about at Justice and Beyond is we need to target a city council member that 3, 4, 5 of us would meet with personally, to get their not sign off, but get their collaboration on this, to walk with us in establishing the task force, then the fund. But a city council member that's going to say, yes, I'm fully behind you, I'll work with you, whether that's Jeff Thomas or whether that's Freddie King, whoever it is, we need to get them that one that we can target that's going to motivate the rest of them. So I think that should be our first step, is having a personal, small group conversation with one of our city council members, so we get the one that is going to walk with us as we navigate this issue. Agree, disagree? I don't know if we have time for too much discussion on it.
Agree, and remind them that they signed when they were, when they were going for election, when they were trying to get our vote, they signed off on agreeing to push a task force.
Sure. Yep. All right, everybody. I cannot. And as far as Belinda said,
agree.
Right. As far as Belinda said too, yeah, you know, we expect this conversation to be much different too, because our guest panelist tonight was Dr. Al Colon, who's going to lead us into this conversation. But it is what it is, and I believe that this conversation needed to happen, and so we're grateful for it. That we were able to have some very frank dialogue and digest where we are and where we need to be. We will continue to have this dialogue, and we need more pillars of justice and beyond. We need more Black representation. We appreciate our white allies, and we need you as well too. But we also need more Black participation too. I'll just say that very frankly. We're going to end in prayer. Listen, a couple things too that I need you to be aware of that are coming down the pike. Number one is tomorrow at the City Hall. If you're a member of Together New Orleans, I am on the executive leadership for Together New Orleans. We will be discussing the Community Lighthouse Project, which will ensure that there are institutions such as Broadmoor Community Church, where no perfect people are allowed, that will be able to stand up at in the event of a power outage like Hurricane Ida, to be a place of distributing food, whether it be hot meals or anything else. May be able to be a cooling center. May also be able to be a place where people can charge their phones. And we'll be able to do that because we'll be able to have solar panels installed on the building, as well as battery backup. And so we are taking this to the City Council tomorrow, the Climate Committee, to get their buy-in and investment on this project to begin with 5 pilot institutions that can be funded, so that we have these community lighthouses. Also too, on Thursday, the Greater New Orleans Interfaith Climate Coalition, as I put on my other hat, that I founded and am chairman of, has already months ago, about 6 months ago, made a recommendation to the New Orleans City Council. First, made a recommendation to the Ethics Review Board of the City of New Orleans, that no city council member can receive any campaign funds from any regulated industries such as energy. And so that anybody running for office or anybody that is presently city council has to reveal whether they're getting any campaign contributions. And if they do, they have to stop. If they're running, they have to reveal it. If they're found that they lied and didn't disclose it, then they will have to withdraw from the race. The Ethics Review Board accepted that recommendation by my organization, Greater New Orleans Interfaith Climate Coalition, and it will now it's now going before the full city council to vote on it as of Thursday. This will make a change in the law of New Orleans. So very excited about that, but we need you to come and support it. We need you to come to city council and to say, yes, this is good, because we're tired of our city council members being given money under the table or even over the table, so that they are regulated by the institution that they're supposed to be regulating. So this needs to end, and we need your support. Thursday, the 24th at 10 o'clock a.m. It will be on the docket for the New Orleans City Council. That's all I have. If anybody else has anything else, speak now about any announcements.
I have one thing, Pastor Manning. We're going to be having a town hall meeting with our lead district attorney, Warren Montgomery, here in St. Tammany Parish on April the 19th. That's a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. That's April the 19th. Tuesday, April the 19th at 7 p.m. Please put that on the Justice and Beyond calendar. We need everyone to show up for that, because it's my understanding that the governor have given him a very powerful position, and we're going to talk about that. So we want to know as much about that as we possibly can at this town hall meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Belinda. Anybody else, any announcements that are that we need to be made aware of? All right. If there are none, we're going to go ahead and end in prayer. Reverend Jeff Connor, are you still on?
Yes.
Hey, would you end us in close us in prayer, please? Yes. Could you close us in prayer?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. God of justice and peace, we know that you hear the hearts here today that are hurting because justice is not done. And so, oh God, we ask that you would breathe life into us, to justice and beyond, to communities all across this country, to give energy and wisdom and strategy, that you would be the wind in our sails as we seek your justice and peace. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Be safe. Look out for one another.
I just put Amos chapter 5 in the chat. Everybody go read and study that. Amos chapter 5. That's where we're headed with this. Okay. Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, Pastor Manning, I'm going to give you a call. We need to talk about something very important that's happening in Washington, D.C.
All right. Let's make it to some other time this week, though. Not tonight.
Okay, probably next week. Next week.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Thank you.